Hello, Suzanne. How are you?
I'm really good today, thank you.
Great.
Hello,
I'm so
Suzanne.
happy to have you because you are like all of our guardian angel. You taught so many classes and helped so many women delivering the beautiful children, and all of us admire so much of your work, and we are so happy to have you at the Global Shiatsu virtual gathering this Saturday. Thank you, Suzanne.
I'm really happy to be at the Global Shiatsu gathering, and I hope I can share some of my experience of working to support women's health and working with babies and partners and supporting families as well.
Yes. So how did you decide to work with the specialized women's issues?
How I decided to work with women's issues really was through my own personal journey in life, because I trained in Shiatsu in the late 1980s. And then I'd been working as a practitioner for a couple of years, and then I became pregnant. Well, even before I became pregnant, I was kind of interested in working with pregnancy because it's a subject that had fascinated me. But when I became pregnant myself, it became more important. And I started to study a bit and read a bit. And it just felt like most of the things that were written about Shiatsu were much more about what not to do, like don't do this, avoid this point, you can't do this. And I just thought, well, I'm sure there's lots of things that are really beneficial to do. And that was really the beginning of my journey, a kind of frustration with what there was in terms of the support that I could have, and wanting to know more, both for myself, but also eventually for working with my clients.
And that's a quite of a journey. When did it start? It was the 90s, right?
It was, well, I became pregnant with my daughter in 1989. So it was 1989, and she was born in 1990. And that's when I had the idea to set up Wellmother. And things have changed a lot since then. I mean, she's going to be 31 this year, which is a bit scary, but that's like my whole kind of journey of working with women's health. But what was I'm trying to think what I was saying about that.
About the journey, the 30 years.
Yeah,
That's
so
a
that's
long
how.
time. So how did your journey change?
Yeah,
Develop?
30 years. And like the whole thing about women is slightly controversial now in terms of the whole transgender issue. But I've actually thought of a new tagline for my my business, because for me, mothering is really not just about women. It's about Mother Earth. It's about the mothering capacity within us, that very yin aspect. In a way, it's a shame that the English language isn't as rich and varied as the Chinese language, isn't as expressive to show the many different forms of mothering. But I've now called it mothering ourselves and mothering the earth, and making it so it's more than just about pregnancy and birth, but about our whole relationship to ourselves and also our relationship to the earth.
Yes.
Oh, so nice.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So how did it change over the years, your practice?
Well, again, so firstly, I was interested a lot in pregnancy and birth, and then also babies. And that's a lot of the work I did in the first like 10, 15, maybe a bit more years, as really focusing on all of those early years. And then as my children got older, I became a bit more interested in childhood development and working with children. And then also I started getting more clients coming for infertility issues, because in 1990, nobody really came much for support with fertility. And these days, well, the last 10 or 15 years, a lot more people are coming with fertility issues. So then I've expanded my work to really look at the whole menstrual cycle and how to support both natural fertility, obviously in the 1990s, I was supporting to some extent natural fertility, although not so many women would come with those kind of issues. But now I work a lot with supporting natural fertility, but also supporting women going through IVF or some kind of assisted conception. And then with my own personal life, I've become more interested in menopause and how the changes at the other end of a woman's life, of like the shutting down of the fertile cycle, and how we can use those energies for ourselves. And I really like the whole Chinese concept of the second spring, and like using that energy in a different way, essentially using it to support ourselves and our own life and growth, and not so much, well, obviously not at all for supporting the growth of children, but other forms of creative expression.
So it seems like second spring is becoming a mother of earth.
Yeah, second spring is becoming, well, it's all related to earth, isn't it? The cycles of the earth, the seasons. But also a lot of my work over the years of working with pregnancy, I began to discover the extraordinary vessels, which when I first started working with pregnancy in the early 1990s, there wasn't really anything much written or taught about the extraordinary vessels. And that's become a really big part of my work as well. And so because the extraordinary vessels are relevant for everybody, my work has expanded also for men, for anybody, essentially, whatever age of their life they're at.
So, Suzanne, when you are pregnant, how did you support yourself with shiatsu? Did you use the particular dribbles, or did you do the special stretches, or did you eat special food, or can you give any suggestion to the older woman?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, special foods, yes. My first shiatsu teacher was a macrobiotic teacher, and I was a fairly strict macrobiotic for a year or two, but when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was more semi-vegan. So I'd cut out sugar and dairy and fish and meat mostly. So more of like a whole food kind of diet, organic food, non-processed food, lots of water. Umeboshi plums in the first trimester I found really helpful for morning sickness. But yeah, good diet. But also the thing that I teach, I think diet and food is of course really fundamental, and I'm very interested in that. But the part I've developed more in my shiatsu, apart from the shiatsu physical touch part of shiatsu, is movement practice, breathing, position, exercise. In the beginning, I was working more on like adapting more like the Makaho exercises for pregnancy, because obviously some of them are more easy to do when you're heavily pregnant than others. And then over the years, I've included more work on the extraordinary vessels. And I've kind of understood that some of the movements that I was doing were actually movements that were stimulating the extraordinary vessels, although I didn't know that at the time. And I also did a training, because I didn't find any shiatsu teachers at the time that I felt I wanted to study with in terms of learning more about pregnancy. So I actually came to the States and studied with an obstetric physiotherapist in Boston, Massachusetts, to learn just more about the changes that went on in the body. And she was teaching antenatal and postnatal exercise, or postpartum, you call it in America, don't you? And her name is Elizabeth Noble. And that was quite a strong influence on my early work, because we did a lot of work with teaching exercise. And she wasn't doing it from an Eastern or a meridian point of view, but I just learned the exercises, and then I worked out which meridians were being involved. And so that's also been quite a core part of my work. And she taught us a lot also, different positions for birth. And she showed us an amazing video called Birth in the Squatting Position. I was pregnant when I saw that, and I thought, yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to give birth in the squatting position if it feels at the right position, and I did, and it felt really the right position. So as you know, with Shiatsu, I was also doing Shiatsu through most of that pregnancy till the last few weeks, because I was only relatively recently qualified, and I thought, well, I don't want to stop because I might lose my I might lose my connection to it. So I was also doing Shiatsu, and as you know, and I was trained to work on a futon on the floor, and a lot of the positions we do in Shiatsu as a practitioner are actually really, really helpful for preparing for birth and for staying fit and healthy in pregnancy. And I just kept really active doing Shiatsu. I'd walk a lot and cycle a lot and swim, and I felt really well during my pregnancy. And I'm sure a lot of it was because I was giving Shiatsu. So movement's a really big part of my work. And that's what I want to share with people on Saturday, are some of the exercises that I've developed over the years that really support women's health. Actually, not just women's health, anybody's health, but that's been quite a big theme for me, apart from the actual hands-on Shiatsu, but the work with movement and exercise and breathing.
Wonderful. And how's your children are doing? I'm sure they are very healthy. No?
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, my daughter is trained as a massage therapist. She's done Thai massage and Ayurvedic massage, and she's done a lot of yoga. She's also a yoga teacher. She's studied in India and Thailand. So she works in the same kind of field, and she's really, yeah, I really admire the work that she does. In fact, she had a client, she sees quite a lot of pregnant clients. She hasn't any children herself, but she's attended some of my courses, and she works quite a lot with pregnancy and fertility and postnatal and with babies. And my son is completely different. He's actually an engineer, so he's gone in the other direction, but he's still fit and healthy.
So do you have any guidance for people who would like to follow your path and also become therapists for future mothers as you are?
Guidance. Say sometimes you don't have to be pregnant. You don't have to have been pregnant to be able to work with pregnant women. You just need to be able to understand how the energies change and what the most important energies to support are. I mean, I suppose I could always say you could start. I have got some online courses. As you know, I've written some books about it, and yeah, you could study online or in person with me, or study about the extraordinary vessels, because that's what I feel are the most important energies. Because if you think about it, where are most of the changes happening in pregnancy? Well, they're happening in the womb and they're happening in the brain. But the womb and the brain don't have meridians in the 12 meridian system. I mean, obviously, meridians in the 12 meridian system support the womb and support the brain, but the extraordinary vessels are directly connected with the womb and the brain and make those really much more direct connections. So for me, that's always the basis of working with anything to do with with the longer changes in our life, with fertility, with reproduction, with sexuality, with like the changes over longer term changes in our life.
So you say fertility, so that means that you can help increase fertility?
Yeah, I hate to say that directly, because I don't like to give people false promises, and because there's no that's the part of an issue with Shiatsu, is because the work is so individualized. It's quite hard to do the kind of randomized controlled trials that drug companies do, and so it's I don't like to make a claim. What I say to people is it will improve the energy flows in your body, and it's going to give your body the best possible chance to conceive. But there are so many reasons why people aren't able to conceive. So yes, a lot of my clients do conceive, but not all of them. And sometimes the outcome of fertility treatment may be that people realize they're not in the right relationship, or that maybe being a parent isn't their journey in this lifetime. So I don't like to say, it does improve fertility in the sense that it is enhancing the flow of our energy. Whether that improvement is enough to mean that you're able to conceive and also carry the pregnancy through to term is another matter. Because also there are many reasons for infertility that are beyond our control, like changes in the environment, for example, like pollutants in the environment, like stress, like all sorts of different factors that we can do something about, but there are also lots of things that are beyond our control, and sort of accepting where we are in the world in a way.
Yeah, so that's the concept of Shiatsu, to achieve the best version of yourself.
Yes, and that we're part of a whole, and we can do our part for us, but we also have to see how we can influence and are influenced by the whole, the Tao.
Yeah, and that also brings a peace of mind and connection to others and nature, and less stress. That means less stress. So that's why it has an impact on the body, right?
Yeah, an impact on the body and an impact on the world around us, like you say, not just people, but everything.
Yeah, so when I ask you for guidance, I meant your classes and your website.
Oh, okay.
You can tell us wellmother.uk.
Yeah, it's wellmother.org or wellmother.co.uk. Both websites work. It's the same website.
Okay. There are so many things there. Can you tell us a little bit about what is there to find?
Yeah, I mean, over the years, I've written quite a number of articles as well as books. I haven't been so good on updating the blog recently, but there are quite a lot of articles that are still relevant on many of the topics that I've been talking about. So there's the blog. There's also, I have got a YouTube channel, and once I've, part of my plans for the future are to develop more videos and recordings on my YouTube channel. But there are
What's the name of your YouTube channel?
There's a link to that. It's Wellmother. Again, it's called Wellmother,
Okay.
and there's a link to that from my website. And there are my books, and then there are online courses that you can sign up and do. And yeah, those are the main resources on the website.
And who are the courses dedicated to? Pregnant women? Couples?
Oh, yeah, so I do have courses. I just have one course for pregnant women called Beautiful Birth, and that's based on my book, Beautiful Birth. Most of the courses at the moment are more for professionals. So one of the other things I developed a lot early on in my work was making connections with midwives, because in the UK, midwives are the health professional that women see more regularly than an obstetrician. I mean, that's changed a little bit over the years, but still we tend to see the midwife first. And the midwives are often more open to, well, at the time when I was working, they were very open to complementary therapies. And so I made friends with a lot of midwives, and I started teaching the midwives in my local hospital. And we were even actually trying to set up a randomized controlled trial on Shiatsu and its effects on post-term pregnancy. But unfortunately, it never got the funding. But So for me, working and working with midwives feels really important to communicate outside our own profession. And obviously women, when they're pregnant, see the midwife or the obstetrician. So that's why one of my books is Shiatsu for Midwives, because I've always felt it's really important to show midwives the importance of Shiatsu and how helpful it can be. And I've actually been working recently in a hospital in Switzerland where we've trained a lot of the midwives there, and they're hoping to do some studies on Shiatsu for pregnancy and birth. So yes, so some of my courses are for midwives, some of them are for massage therapists, and a lot of them are for Shiatsu practitioners.
Okay, great. Kumiko, do you have any questions?
So Suzanne, what are you gonna share us this Saturday?
Oh, but first, sorry, we don't see your face.
Yeah, I know. I've just noticed it's gone a lot darker. I think the sun's gone down. So wait 1 second.
What about that light, that professional light?
Oh no, I probably don't need that. I just need to change the exposure on the camera, I think. Oh, have I done it the wrong way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna close my window. Maybe it's noisy.
Oh, hang on. Is that better?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But still quite dark.
I mean, I could turn one of the lights on. Hang on.
Yeah, yeah, please.
Is that better?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Now we have to do it all over again.
Oh no.
That was a joke.
All right. So Suzanne, tell us, what are you gonna teach us this Saturday? You have so much information just right now. You said so many great things. I cannot wait to hear.
Well, what I was hoping to teach you on Saturday was introducing those of you who don't know about the extraordinary vessels to some of the main, some connections that we can make with our womb, or womb, if there are men listening, then reproductive organs, which I'd like to call the palaces, our palaces and our brain, and they connect a lot with our heart and our shen, but also our kidneys and ancestral energy. I haven't really talked about that. That's a whole other big subject. How we are influenced by our ancestors, both in sometimes in really supporting ways, but also in perhaps challenging ways. So I want to really share it in quite a practical way, I hope, where people can start to feel some of these energies in their bodies and how they can support them.
That's great. Also, so many people are suffering because anxieties for this coronavirus, the world pandemic. Some people lost the job and some people lost the family members. And then your talk would be very, very helpful to anybody. This discovering the extraordinary vessel. It's pretty interesting. Yes. And then you're going to show us some.
Yeah, I agree. For me, yeah, I'm going to show you some exercises, maybe a bit of breathing and visualizing connections, like more internally what's going on. And the extraordinary vessels are really quite a lot linked with our defensive energy as well. And so how we can really strengthen our immune system, but they're also a lot about how we connect to Earth and how we can be anchored and supported by Earth, but also how we can open up our heart, open up our wings. That's an image I've been using quite a lot, seeing our arms as like our wings, that we can be also quite free from the earth and be more like a bird flying in the sky, and like having more of an overview and having a more spacious quality. So it's all about, a lot of it's about the balance between space and heaven and earth and anchoring.
Oh, that's so nice.
Beautiful.
Okay, thank you so much. Suzanne Yates will be our guest on Saturday, Global Shiatsu Virtual Gathering number 22 in year 2021.
But yeah, 22. I like the number 22.
Yes, great. So, extraordinary vessels and women's health. That's the title of your lecture.
Yeah.
Okay, looking forward.
Looking forward to it. Great.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, was that okay? Yeah, when I look, because my camera's slightly there, so that's why I have to be careful. If I look at your pictures, I'm looking down, so I have to look at the camera,
Yeah,
look
Okay.
up.
That's great.
But now I'm looking at say goodbye. Yeah.
Also,
So,
Suzanne,
Kumiko, can we stop recording?
yes, Suzanne,
Stop
we
the
are
rec-
ready.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Yates, and I've been doing Shiatsu since the mid-80s when I started learning it, and it's been a really important part of my life ever since. My Shiatsu practice has focused quite a lot on working with women at all different stages of their lives, but especially around pregnancy and birth. And in more recent years, I've become very interested in how our time in the womb has such a profound effect on the rest of our lives, both for women and for men, because we've all been in the womb. And so that's really been my focus, is like, how does the beginning part of our life affect us for the rest of our life? And I just love Shiatsu. I love the touch. I love the connection that it brings between people. I love how profound the shifts can be and how people can have a completely different experience of their body through the touch. I also find that being a Shiatsu practitioner has benefited me personally as well, in that in doing Shiatsu, I'm keeping my own energy flowing. In order to stay fit and healthy to do Shiatsu, I do have my meditation practice and my own personal movement practice as well. And I feel it's such an important part of my life. I can't imagine not having it as part of my life anymore. And I hope I'll continue doing it until the end of my life. Hello, I'm Suzanne Yates, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on Saturday to share some of my work with extraordinary vessels and women's health in what I hope will be an interactive format, so that you'll have a chance to experience some of this work for yourself.
Great. And who is the lecture dedicated to?
The lecture's all about extraordinary vessels and women's health, and it's open to anybody that would like to know more about this subject, male or female, or non-binary as well.
Okay, we got it.
Yeah,
Great.
is that okay?